So the good news is the ore smelter is working. The aluminum ore smelter. The aluminum smelter. I like calling it the ore smelter. Leave me alone. Ugh. We've got this guy fired up and burning hot. And we're ready to start throwing in some aluminum cans, homie. I'm suddenly having every camera problem known to man. Do you see what I see? A can that just exploded. And now we're gonna watch him sink into the fire. Kaboosh. Goodbye, can. We'll see you later. Change things around here a little bit. I basically took a 25-cent pot, which this is the lid for, and I had to use the pliers to kind of hammer a little bit more of an opening so I could get it in the front, but it fit nicely vertically wise. And throwing those guys in there and cooking the crap out of them. And I think I've been seeing a little shiny in the bottom. This is what came out of the first batch. This is slag. Lots of aluminum slag, no aluminum. One of the causes is that it very quickly punches its own hole in the bottom of these cans and then starts to drip out. I don't know why so much seems to be oxidizing. So that's something maybe look into. Maybe the fire's not hot enough. Maybe it's too hot. I don't know. Been feeding this thing like it's an infant child that's growing at an accelerated rate. It's just blowing up in there. But now I've got it where I can throw in several cans at a time. The top is definitely hot enough to get them melting pretty fast. And what you're hearing there is any residual water inside the can. It basically takes a minute for it to melt because it's got to burn off all that liquid that's inside there. And then once it does, it's forming a slurry in the bottom. I'm not sure how much is slag and how much is molten. I'm going to take it out here in a minute or two and give a little test and see if we can pour. Attempt number 2. That is what happens to aluminum cans that go in there by themselves and they're not in a vessel. They just turn into straight aluminum oxide. Pretty useless. At least for now, until I can find a use for it. Got my little muffin pan cooling here. And we have successfully turned this into this. So, might not seem like the most useful thing in the world, but I've also demonstrated that the kiln can take these and remelt them down. Now, here's the kicker. This is really thin metal, lots of surface area. This is a very thick chunk. I call them ingot, even though some metal workers may disagree with me on using that term for aluminum of this size. And this, because of the lower surface area and the higher mass, will actually melt much more efficiently and produce less slag than the aluminum cans. So the slag that I've got laying all around here, which I'm probably about to burn myself on, is aluminum oxide. It's incredibly hard stuff, which makes it good for sharpening tools and things of that nature if you can get it to lay flat. So eventually, instead of just like dumping it, maybe I can find something where I can press it into like a type of flat mold, and then when I pull it out, it'll be like a sanding block kind of thing, maybe. Or maybe I can find some other use for it and grind it up into small chunks and use it as like an abrasive, but this is really what I'm after. So if I could take all these junk cans, because I drink a lot of this stuff, and turn them into useful things like this, then number one, they're not cluttering up the yard, and number two, I have effectively recycled my aluminum, which according to modern man is useless because the recycling price on aluminum is so low it makes me just want to puke. It actually would cost more in money, energy, time to gather all this stuff up, load it on even a truckload, and then haul it down to the recycling center. It's just not worth the effort. But making these and learning how to cast, eventually I'm going to get some better molds so that I can actually make some things that are useful. I may have to make my own molds out of wood or whatever. And then I can start actually manufacturing stuff out of aluminum. So, yeah, cool stuff. There is a rant I want to go on because this isn't exactly primitive technology, but I do believe it falls into the shit hit the fan scenario type thing. And it falls in a very important niche. And so maybe I'll do a video rant on that later, just my overview of survival skills when it comes to SHTF type of scenario. But until then, you can keep watching and keep updated with what I'm doing by clicking the subscribe button below. You can like or leave comments. I love comments and I try to answer as many as I can, as long as you don't look like a spam bot. And yeah, stay tuned because I'm going to be doing more cool fun stuff, and eventually I'm going to find a use for this aluminum. We're going to cook it back up and do that with it. As far as the kiln, I'm not sure how much longer it's going to last. I did have to make some modifications to it today, which did nothing to increase the strength, and it's starting to develop cracks in certain places, but I think I can get a couple more firings out of it before this one's done and it's time to start building another one. But the design concept at least works fine. If you get a lot of airflow up from the bottom where your fire pit is into like a heating chamber, then you can heat that chamber to well over 600 degrees C, which is what it takes to melt aluminum. That's the minimum that it takes. We'll be on to kiln design number 5, I'm sure, in not too long. Until then, keep on cracking.